Good morning.
Morning, can you all hear me?
Yep.
I always have different settings at each campus. And Andy, thanks for your flexibility. Sorry, I needed to be here this morning, but I didn't want to reschedule because I know how we've been wanting to meet together and get together. So I hope this is convenient for you and okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I'm used to the Zoom background. So yeah, welcome to my place, I guess.
Excellent. And where are you in Statesboro?
Yeah, I'm in Statesboro. I live in Burkholter, so it's pretty close to the golf course actually. So
Oh, cool. All
yeah.
right. Forgive me. I had my 10 o'clock here late. It was supposed to be my 10. I'm on a diet. I've lost 10 pounds in about 2.5 weeks. And so I do these fuel bars. So if I have food in my mouth, forgive me.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. But we'll go ahead and get started because I know we only have a little bit of time.
25. Well,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
hopefully we'll get through everything. Hopefully we'll get it through everything.
Awesome.
All right.
Um,
All right.
we're nearing 800,000 cases in Georgia. Georgia's been on the decline, however, since January 13th. Bullitt County has 4,775 cases and 47 deaths. Chatham County has 7,304 cases with 317 deaths. Liberty County has 2,544 cases with 42 deaths. And in the last day, actually, 7 additional deaths have been chalked up to Chatham and Liberty County. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked you in the fall. That do you believe that asking students to return, especially with increased in-person classes, was the right decision?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And it's a fair question. And for us, as you know, we set up an entire COVID-19 task force advisory group that we have on our campus, 18 plus members. We go through 7 operational assessments. We work through all of that. We had really set up the entirety of the plan. And if you remember, I was part of the president's task force from the USG, 5 of us, led by Jerry Moorhead, that did the initial return to campus plan, right? That started way back in May and June and set us up for our planning. And so through the fall, what we're able to do is really assess, look at where we are offering classes, enacting all the litany of safety precautions. We built on that. We learned from our experiences and went forward with our plan for the spring. And for our spring, what we really focused on is that continued classroom safety and using the assessment to look at that. And from the fall numbers, and what we can tell you is data shows us that the classroom is the safest place to be, and for our faculty and for our students. And so with that, knowing that we could create opportunities around that and further explore that in the spring, that's what we did. And we opened knowing that we would have cases on the campus, as you've seen just in the last 4 weeks. But as you've also seen, we mitigate through that with our CARES notification team, where we focused, and we certainly foresee that as a downward trend in these coming weeks, just as we've seen through Georgia, and we're starting to see in our regions. So what we learned was our faculty, our students, particularly our students and our parents, as they vote with their feet to come back in the spring, we had basically the same type of retention fall to spring that we would in any other normal semester. So I have to believe, with all those mitigating factors, with people choosing with their feet, that we did the right things. And again, that team of 18 plus people on that include our experts from our College of Public Health, epidemiologists, et cetera, our medical doctors. We follow all the science.
Awesome.
So I feel great about that decision.
Good. Thank you. Obviously the White House administration is moved over. And so from our perspective as a university, and of course, actually, I'll back up a bit. We're expecting additional funding through CRRSAA. I want to make sure I get that right.
Earth 2, it's called a bunch of things.
Yeah. So, what do you expect to change with the White House transition in terms of COVID?
We're watching and seeing. We're focusing our efforts on the vaccine, Andy. That's the most important thing for us right now. And so, that flow of vaccine to the states and to the local district DPHs is our biggest focus. And so the acceleration of that and our ability to then ramp up our closed pods, which we had the first one on Friday, huge success. We can do as many as 1,000 vaccines a day to the applicable population. So that's what we're focusing on in our readiness in those areas, and working, obviously, as the federal government ramps those efforts up to deploy and develop vaccine and get it to our states. That's the focus where we are right now, specific to COVID-19 with the federal government.
So you don't expect anything to change with the different administration?
Well, you mean in terms of what specifically, like
In
the
terms
CDC
of funding
requirements
or
or?
support,
Oh,
that
oh,
in that sense.
well, certainly, we're very grateful for the HERF2 funds that are coming. And I think you had another question that you want to know where we are in that. What we do know now are the guidelines for the student grant aid, and we know the amount. It's going to be 11.3 million. And so we're working through that, going through our plan. We should know more in about 2 to 3 weeks, and as quickly as possible, we'll get those out to our students directly. It's direct grant aid as it was in the spring.
Okay, and we don't know details about if it's going to be evenly distributed or things of that nature?
Well, we know the criteria, which you've seen also, and that's what we're building a plan on, based on need, based on eligibility, et cetera, with a few more expanded groups as opposed to what it was in the spring.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, I do have a question. I know, just preparing for this interview, I was looking back at old White House state reports, and to my knowledge, the Biden administration does not produce those state reports from the White House COVID task force. But one of the recommendations on there that was pretty repetitive was requiring Georgia to recommend surveillance testing at universities. So why is Georgia Southern not surveillance testing?
Yeah. I mean, it's a fair question. We have 26 institutions in the university system of Georgia, and, only 2 were able to ramp up mass surveillance testing for their entire population. So as we looked at that and really assessed it, our limitations obviously were personnel, sustained services, and certainly cost was in there. So we focused on notification. We knew if we ramped up our ability with our care notification team to quickly contact, trace, work through that, do all of our precautions in terms of our safety protocols and all the messaging, that we had a really good opportunity to make it through the fall and in the spring. And I think you proved right. What's really going to be interesting, Andy, is when this is all said and done, the comparison of campuses from a data standpoint that were capable of doing fully ramped up surveillance testing and those that didn't, and how they fared through it, because it's going to be interesting study. Because we don't know where to land, but I don't know if we're going to see that mitigating opportunity or factor to have the mass surveillance really lowered any COVID spread within those campuses. It depended more the type of the institution. If it's a traditional campus with residence halls, et cetera, that's really more of where you saw institutions with higher cases like ours and surveillance testing. It's going to be interesting to see how it lands once all that's researched. But yeah, for us, it wasn't an option. There was not a way in which we could ramp up on 3 campuses with the complexity of that.
Now, to your point about figuring out where it lands and that sort of thing, as you just said, we went with the route of heavy into the care center. And I don't know if either of you know, I had COVID.
And communication.
I'm sorry?
And communication. Right.
So I had COVID at the beginning of the year, and so I reported to the care center. Wonderful experience for me, just as a side note. But one of the things that I got hung up on is there was one question that asked, who have you come in contact with? So, if we're putting all of our eggs in the care center basket, relying solely on students and faculty and staff to just be honest with us, right? I mean, Then how do we know that the numbers we're seeing are not the same? How do we know that those numbers that we're seeing, the positive cases, that sort of thing, is correct?
Yeah. And for us, it is, as you know, you're also called, not just the form, but once we know somebody's symptomatic or somebody is positive, they then receive a call. They have dialogue with a trained person that goes through this series of questions, and then we investigate any of those contacts. We certainly encourage everyone to be open, honest, and engaged. We would really appreciate it if the Georgian helped us with that. And if you ever wanted to, this is your private experience, and certainly in no way would share it myself. But if you had a positive experience, to maybe write something about, hey, this really works, and encourage students to engage. But remember, look, we also know anyone that gets a positive test anywhere, because it reports, we share all our data, obviously confidentially, with DPH. so that we can then assist in the contact tracing through DPH. So you could say the same thing about the entire system of DPH because it relies on people engaging and telling us exactly who they've been in contact with. So encouragement, we follow all of our protocols within that, and we continue to communicate. But we know the CARES notification team works, and that process works. And so our encouragement is continuing to engage. And clearly by the calls and number of forms and number of calls we make in totality, far more than the positives. I mean, that's in the tens of thousands now. In fact, I don't even know what that cumulative number is, John. We could look that up. But that's literally, so the engagement has been much more than what you know as the total positives.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and I understand that. But, are you concerned that students or people in our campus community just saying, well, you know what, I don't want to piss off my roommate and have them go in quarantine for 10 days and have them miss classes and that sort of thing? I mean, if we're putting all of our eggs in that basket, we're relying solely on people to be honest with us. And in a time of a pandemic, do you think that that's the right way to go versus, actually testing and knowing for a fact that we have this many cases?
Well, and also surveillance testing is voluntary also
Sure.
at the two campuses that do it. So if you're talking about, if I can get into the character of each individual of a student and why they do what they do, I guess you could parlay that to the same direction as, are people actually going to get surveillance tests, or they just don't want to know? So, I think the fair answer to your question is we continually communicate, we continue to work with our student populations, we provide every avenue, testing availability, and we want them to engage, and we would appreciate all help within that.
So as I'm sure you're aware, in early September, the American Association of University Professors, Georgia Southern's chapter, submitted a letter to the editor, us, that quickly garnered hundreds of signatures from faculty members across the state. And I want to read you one quote before I ask my question. Quote, "It's not a hyperbole to suggest that the lives of Georgia residents living in these locales are in the hands of University System of Georgia Chancellor Wrigley and the Georgia Southern administration. As a university president, do you believe that our campus community is responsible for the cases in Chatham, Liberty, and especially Bullitt County? Some of the cases, rather?"
Yeah. And what I'll tell you around that is that's why I and the team are so proactively connected and continuous communication with our local hospitals, with Region J, with our local Department of Public Health, with our governmental agencies, our city and county. I'm on regular calls. I'm asking and talking to the CEOs of the hospitals and saying, how are we doing? Are you seeing any of our students? Are you seeing any impact? And I can tell you, really, for us and our impact, we've been, at least from a data standpoint and what we've been able to follow and what I've gotten from these conversations and communications, our impact to our region as a direct relation has not been substantial. Now, any death, any illness, any pandemic of this size that's once in a generation in 112 years since the last one is tragic, and we mourn any loss along that way. But we're a community. We're an important part of every community that we serve in the three counties of the three campuses of Georgia Southern. And so together, we're all working together to fight this disease.
Sorry, I'm trying to find my place.
No worries.
Switching gears a little bit, we put in an open records request when the Inclusive Excellence Action Plan came out for all the drafts, and what we found is that several points didn't make it to the final draft, namely the then second point, commit to anti-racism and anti-racist policies. Mm-hmm. And so why was that taken out of the plan, rather?
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually talked to Dr. Wilson yesterday because I was like, we literally had hundreds of people going through this review process of the plan. If you've ever done a major strategic plan, and particularly as one as important as our first ever Inclusive Excellence Action Plan, there's myriad of edits that go on, that go through cycles. So I can't tell you anything specific. What I can tell you is, look, our goal in this plan was to call people into the work that we're doing in inclusive excellence and not call them out. And so I can't speak specifically to why that was in or out. It wasn't, something that I specifically did. It was part of the process, but it was to ensure holistically the language in our Inclusive Excellence Action Plan was have a broad tent of opening to meet people where they were and bring them in. I don't know if that's the answer why it was, ended up being in or out of a draft, but boy, I can show you 10 different strategic plans I've been a part of with all the iterations, and sometimes you scratch your head if we're got in or out, but it was nothing overtly intentional other than what I can tell you was the specific goal of the plan.
Sure, but you talk about calling people in and not calling people out. Are you concerned that some students may see that and say, whoa, 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 I'm a racist. I don't want to be, what do you mean by that? Not call people out. I'm confused by that.
Well, you've heard me say directly that racism in any of its forms or expressions do not align with the values of Georgia Southern. That's clear. Now, we're also a campus of people of varying beliefs and backgrounds. And so for us, as we go through this process of education, of training around inclusive excellence, we're fully committed to everything we've delineated in the plan as we move that forward. That's the focus.
So, are you concerned at all that students may see that was not included and say, well, what is this plan all about then? I just in talking to some students, some of them feel like, if they even are aware of it, that, what does this do? What does it do? So, when students would hear that this was not included in the plan, do you understand where they may be coming from when they say, well, if they're not going to include that, if they're not going to go that far, then what is this plan even about?
Well, I mean, specifically, the plan is a commitment to restructuring all aspects of what we do, from in our instructional curriculum to full participation, and including that worldviews, cultures, lifestyles are all a welcome part of the fabric of Georgia Southern, to create a climate at Georgia Southern that's welcoming and inclusive for everybody. You see that pinpointed in specific actions. I'm sure you've read the plan, you've seen it. You see it aligned with our scorecards and accountability. You see the training that we're asking of all our faculty and staff, of those opportunities for training. You see that for our students. You see PSAC and PDAC. You see all the work that we're doing within it. And that's how, in action, you see the accountability and alignment and the progression of an institution that's on a journey.
To that point, these are, what I'm about to do is just, I want to get your thoughts on this. I've been to Marvin Pittman before, and as I'm sure you both have, and I took some pictures. And one thing I noticed, now obviously these are just former university presidents, but one of the points in the plan talks about conducting an audit of physical space to create visually welcoming and inclusive environments. And so, being that Marvin Pittman is, your office, the AVP CDO's office, a lot of other senior level officials, I took these pictures and I just was curious what your thoughts were on this. These are some pictures, obviously, from Marvin Pittman, and every single picture, except for one, is of a white man. And so, except for one, and that is right here, and that one's right by the stairwell. So you have to understand that for some students that may just walk in there, or visitors or that sort of thing, they may say, well, what is this? And so if you're talking about the plan being all about action, and one of the points in the plan being conducting an audit of physical space and creating an inclusive and welcoming environment, how can is that an inclusive and welcoming environment?
It's the history of the institution. And it is basically, as you said, the presidents that previously served the institution since its founding in 1906. I can't change that history. It is who and what we are. But in this plan, and as we move forward, we have to reflect on history, and then we have to assess and see where we can improve. But basically, throwing out history means you aren't going to learn from it and improve from it. So, as far as pictures on walls that are emblematic and representing, in essence, the former presidents of an institution, that to move forward in any other way, I don't know what you're suggesting there, or calling into action. What are you suggesting, Andy?
I'm not saying I'm suggesting anything. I just was asking your thoughts on one of the points of the plan in comparison to the senior level officials' office space.
Okay. Well, I know what they represent, and I know what we learned from history, the collective intellect of that along that way, and I know the plan that we're moving forward under my leadership at Georgia Southern.
Switching gears a bit, USG Chancellor Steve Wrigley announced his retirement effective at the end of the fiscal year. So have you been approached or thrown your hat in the ring for Chancellor?
You trying to get rid of me, Andy?
No,
Is that it?
no.
Look, I love Georgia Southern. I love my job. I love what I'm doing here. I haven't even been here 2 years yet. It'll be 2 years in April. We've accomplished so much. We put in plans of a journey of improvement in all of what we do across the board. We're seeing success in that already. And there's so much work still to do. And so, my hope is I'm here for many years to come.
And one of my last questions here, enrollment's up. The new engineering building is set to open in the fall. We just announced the South Campus and lots of changes coming to the Statesboro, Armstrong, and Hinesville campuses. And so all signs are pointing towards continued growth. And so what does that mean for current and prospective students?
Well, thank you. That's a very positive question. I'm proud of you, Andy. Thank you for that, because you're recognizing the growth. Growth means success. It means that students are choosing us. It means they're coming here because we have a welcoming environment, an environment in which they can flourish. It means more opportunities. It means more opportunities for partnerships. Think about what we just announced yesterday. One of the largest gifts in our history, to name our Department of Music, the Fred and Diana Gretsch School of Music, the partnership with a 137-year-old instrument company that's world-renowned, based out of Savannah, that'll connect us then further to downtown Savannah with our nationally acclaimed music department moving forward. It means partnerships like Junior Achievement, who want to locate on the Savannah campus and have 15,000 middle school children come here, and then have our students be trained and paid as interns to teach them financial literacy, innovation, etc. It means logistics, IT tech, and the corridor that's happening out of the advanced manufacturing and all the IT and logistics business entities that are coming from the port. Look to Georgia Southern, because it's growing, because it has a new engineering building that's state-of-the-art in advanced manufacturing, to partner with us so that our students have internship opportunities, employment opportunities. It means that we get one of the largest estate gifts in our history, almost 1.5 million of College of Education scholarships to our students, because people believe in what we're doing, see us moving in a positive forward direction, and want to then provide funding to support our students and programs. When you aren't growing, or when you aren't doing programs that are impactful and relevant to what our students need and what our communities need, people don't invest in you and want to partner with you. And where we're headed with all these announcements, with all these successes, is a testament to that. And at the center of it, it's that belief in the transformational power of education, Andy. When it gets to it, it's the belief that whatever age if I take that 18-year-old to 22, or wherever they engage, whether it's non-traditional student, that your experience with Georgia Southern is going to take you where you want to go and provide the tools necessary for that. So I'm excited. I'm bullish in our future. These have been challenging times. I mean, budget reductions, worldwide pandemic, social unrest like we've never seen in our country. I'm proud of how we've navigated through this, Andy. Have we been perfect? No. But, we're transparent in everything we're doing. We talk about it, we learn from it, we correct, we adjust, and we move together. And I'll start where I finished. I'm thrilled and proud to be the 14th president of Georgia Southern. And we're ready and we're moving forward. I'm excited about the future.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for your time. I know we're wrapping up here. Is there anything else I didn't ask about that you want included?
Nothing else I can think of at the top of my head. And, if there's a follow-up later that occurs to you, just reach out and we'll try to answer that for you along the way. Okay?
Awesome.
And when is this coming out?
So we'll have a couple pieces from this, but one should be coming out this afternoon.
Okay.
And I'll shoot it over to y'all.
Okay. All right. Okay. And this will be about the myriad of topics that we've talked about, or
Yeah, the one coming out today will be just about COVID and enrollment growth and that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. Anything after that from the other questions?
Yeah, we'll pull your thoughts on the Inclusive Excellence Action Plan from a broader investigation that we've been working on.
Okay. Well, and there's nothing nefarious there, Andy. I don't know, this campus is coming together more than it ever has. And though we can improve and certainly hold us accountable if there's something you want to know, but remember, you're part of this too. And yes, be critical. I'm never going to tell you not to be critical to us. I know that's your default, but help us also. And don't be afraid to say when we're actually doing something well, okay? Or at least trying. I'd appreciate that, my friend. Okay?
Well, we never are. I'd like to think that we're pretty fair, and if we aren't, I'd appreciate, y'all letting us know. Y'all both have my cell phone and email. Give me a call. Let me know.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great day. Thanks, Andy.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Andy, one quick thing. The engineering building opened this semester.
Okay. So it is open this semester.
Yeah,
okay.
We cut the ribbon January 8th.
Okay, so students and faculty, staff are in there?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys.